Why do anti-Christian biases rooted in LGBT sympathies keep growing in our country? Why does this keep happening? Because it is. It is a growing trend. If you haven't seen it, you're blind. And the answer is because it was planned. Okay? I want to talk to you about something that you may have never heard about. It's called After the Ball. And it is a book that came out in 1989, How America Will Conquer Its Fear of Hatred of Gays in the 1990s. And they basically spell out the game plan for the gay movement to succeed in this country. And by the way, they did it. They won. It was planned, friends. It was planned, and you need to know your history. And I'm going to bring you through some of the things that they talk about in this book because they basically roadmap how's America going to shift from a traditional view of marriage and sexuality, aka according to the scriptures, according to the Bible, and basically according to human history for as long as humans have been alive, honestly. I mean, it's been 5-6 years we've had homosexual marriage in this country, 6 years. The previous 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,000 years of human history, it was basically understood that man and woman make a marriage and make a family. And biology still believes that. So I want to walk you through this because it's important, because I want you to know the facts of how this was engineered into our society. It was engineered by some very smart men. These guys were graduates in law and graduates in psychology. They had successful practices, and then they set out to justify the gay rights movement. And so here we go. Let me just unpack this for you. The highlights from the book. First off, they said desensitization had to happen. And that means that they had to make sure that homosexuality was included with was promoted through a flood of related advertising. Flood the airwaves. And that brings me to number 2, endless messaging. They talk about this. The fastest way, this is a quote from the book, the fastest way to convince straights that homosexuality is commonplace is to get a lot of people talking about the subject in a neutral or supportive way. And that's exactly what's happening. And then there's something called jamming. Jamming. The third tactic is to make opponents feel shame. They call this jamming. Make your opponents feel shame. Here's a quote from the book. All normal people feel shame when they perceive that they are not thinking, feeling, or acting like one of the pack. The trick is to get the bigot into the position of feeling a conflicting twinge of shame along with his reward whenever his homo hatred surfaces, so that his reward will be diluted or spoiled. Jamming succeeds, this is the book, succeeds insofar as it inserts even the slightest frisson of doubt and shame to the previously unannoyed self-righteous pleasure. We need massive public exposure for the message to succeed. So in other words, they banked on the fact that human beings need to feel accepted. And so if we can get more and more people to feel like not embracing homosexuality will cause you to lose acceptance, then that will reverse the trend and people will just kind of like submit to their plan, right? I don't want to feel like I'm an outsider. I don't want to feel shame. So yes, I support gay rights. I will hashtag it. I will put the little gay flag overlay on my Facebook profile because I don't want to feel shame. I don't want to not be one of the pack. And so that's what they call it. They call it jamming. And then number 4, accusing religious people. And this is an interesting one. And this is the For the Win article from USA Today, accusing religious people. This is page 178-9 of the book. Quote, gays can use talk to muddy the moral waters, that is, to undercut the rationalizations that justify religious bigotry and to jam some of his psychic rewards. Here's what they say. Portray such institutions as antiquated backwaters, badly out of step with the times and with the latest findings of psychology. Portray gays as victims. Portray gays as victims. This is page 183. Gays must be portrayed, this is a quote, as victims in need of protection so that straights will be inclined to reflect to adopt the role of protector. If gays present themselves instead as a strong and arrogant tribe promoting a defiantly unconformist lifestyle, they are most likely to be seen as a public menace and that warrants resistance and oppression. So they've got to be victims of what? They got to be victims of prejudice. This is why the homosexual movement has piggybacked off the civil rights movement, the very just, the very righteous civil rights movement of getting blacks the rights of whites in this country, to undo that injustice. The homosexual movement has piggybacked off of this for some time now, and people don't see it, but they basically have co-opted the civil rights agenda for the cause of homosexuality and transgender rights. Yep, I do have one more, I think. Attractive messaging is number 6. Attractive presentation of gays. And so this is also from the book. page 183. Quote, persons featured in the media campaign should be wholesome and admirable by straight standards and completely unexceptional in appearance. In a word, they should be indistinguishable from the straights we'd like to reach. Quote, paint gay men and lesbians as superior, veritable pillars of society. So they've got to be superior pillars of society and portrayed that way in all messaging. The last bullet list after the ball was to accrue power and corporate wealth. So page 212, run symbolic gay candidates for every high political office. And so, and then also invade the corporate world of America so that they can secure the corporate dollars and fund their movement. And the conclusion of the matter is this: they won. They won because most Americans have an affinity toward the homosexual movement, have a sympathy toward the gay plight. I mean, it's almost like they have more sympathy for the gay plight than the black plight at this point. And I got to say to my brothers and sisters who are black in Christ, aren't you offended a little bit? Aren't you bothered at all that they basically have taken your righteous and just fight and co-opted it and basically abducted it for the right to fornicate, the right to sexual immorality, to the right to impose these views on society? I mean, at some point, we've got to think about that this is not right. This is not just. This is not acceptable. The sad part is Marshall Kirk, who is the co-author and possibly the instigator of the book, he was badly oppressed by depression, severe migraine headaches, and babbling fits throughout his life. He died alone in his apartment and was found by friends days later in 2005. The other guy, Hunter Madsen, he's still alive and he's up in Canada. But why do I bring this up? Because what we are seeing today is the success of a planned redesign of American life.